So once again, welcome members who are present here with us today. This is, of course, consciousism study class. We have two classes, especially now we have three classes. We have the language class where we teach the Swahili class. I'm leading that class as a Swahili teacher every Tuesday at around 9 p.m. We have a WhatsApp group for Kiswahili, and we've started. We are in the second lesson. We are looking forward to 15 lessons in coming future. So that will be 4 months. We are teaching basic Swahili from the startup. So you can be able to join us on Mondays, on Tuesdays, on that's from 1900 London time or 1800 GMT on Tuesday. We have a class on Thursday, which is the mother class of all these classes. It's called Consciousism class. This is where we spend our time to study and read the book Consciousism, Philosophy and Ideology of Kwame Nkrumah. We do it every 2100 East African time, 2000 CAT, and maybe 1900 GAT. So we read the book. So far we are still in chapter 1, around page 14. We've been reading like a paragraph and discuss, and out of that, so many things come out. So many things, because the philosophy class is so heavy that sometimes now that leads us to the last group we created. There's a WhatsApp group we have created for research, because everything Kruma talks about, starting from the colonial student, we are now having a research for this month for education. I've done part of the introductory research, whereby we discuss on how to pan-African education system in Africa. We are also checking the cost of education. We are checking the values and maybe the expenditures and all other curriculum and comparing African education to other education so that we can have a pan-African view. Already I presented my proposal to that group in regards to the pan-Africanization of African education. So that's also another serious class we have research. So we've been doing a research on education. There's a research on culture that's ongoing. We will might have to do a research on the religion as we move forward. And many other research will be coming based on the content we get out of our Thursday class. Then on this Saturday class, we are having now the Africa Unification class. This class is purely meant to discuss how Africa can actually unite into one continental government. Of course, we've been presenting different also research that we need to share here. Like today, you see, we are discussing about the military, and we'll be presenting this military concept later to see the potential of African military. If we actually unite, we have a potential of having the biggest military in the whole world, and we might have a strongest military that can protect Africa instead of having a military for Uganda, military for Kenya, military for Ethiopia, military for Sudan. So all this also will be presented later in part of this class. But today we are actually presenting this what we call Matigari. Matigari is actually the patriot who survived the bullet. These are the story of the freedom fighters who fought for independence. Then when they came out of the forest during when Africa got independent, it's not only applying in Kenya, but across the continent. When they came out of the forest, they realized that actually there was no independence. They were betrayed. There was no true independence, and this is what's going up to date. Africa is still engraved in a situation whereby there's no actual true independence, and we are struggling to actually regain and actually get free and true independence. So the last class we did this was the first time when I discussed of Matigari. Matigari is a warrior, a mysterious warrior, is a character who actually own a house. I'm doing a recap of the first class. They own a property. He's like an ordinary African who had his own property, toiled his own land, did everything and farmed everything. Then a white man came in to take over even his house, to take over his farm. Then a white man turned him to be the servant of the house. He was the house owner, but now he became a servant and in a servant quarter in his own house. So Matigarin then runs away in the forest. He wanted to kill this white man called Williams. Then in the process that he ran for his gun to shoot Williams, the houseboy for William, who was a black man employed by the white man in the house of this Matigari, whom now they changed to be the servant of the house while he was the owner of the house, this John Boy, the black man, hung he actually held Matigari when Matigari wanted to shoot the white man. And in this process, they were able to bring Matigari down. So when Matigari fell down, he had to look on a way on how he could run because it was now either his life in danger because he could not be able to manage the white man. So he ran through the window, went to the forest. And now for the years, they were searching each other in the forest. Surprisingly, Matigari managed to kill first of all, the black servant of this white man, John Boy, who was a collaborator to the white man. Then finally, he managed to kill Williams. When he killed Williams, he felt that now truly the independence is gained. He cannot get out of the forest to come back and reclaim his properties. He went under Mugumo tree. A Mugumo tree is a big tree in Africa and in Kenya, which is more of spiritual tree for the Kikuyu community in Kenya. And he decided to put down all his artilleries, from the guns, bullets, and everything else. He decided to hide them and bury them under Mugumo tree, knowing very well that the work for actually struggle for independence is over. Now he was coming back as a free man to take over his property. He took now the belt of peace. He wore the white belt of peace. Now he came back, and he was now after looking for his family so that he can go back to his home, the house where he was just away from. And that's how he starts his journey to walk around. He goes to the industry, find a factory where the black men were working in factories. He saw children following a tractor to the dumping site. He followed the children. When he went there, he found the children were struggling for actually the leftovers that were being thrown on the dustbins. Even after independence, the children could not have food. And then he followed one of the child who took him actually to an open field. Children did not even have house even after independence. They were sleeping on garage areas on old vehicles. The kids chased him away down the road, stoned him. Then after there, he was held by one of the kids called Muriki and Ngaruro. Then he went to look for back to his house because he knew where his house was. Then he passed by the restaurant. Then he was surprised that women now are in the restaurants again drinking and actually drinking alcohol, something that was not in his traditional understanding before he went to the forest. The traditional women were not that open enough to be in the pub and drinking. But now he found women were drinking. Then one lady comes to the forest, to the restaurant. She was called Gushera. And then Gushera comes to her comes to the pub. Then Gushera was explaining her life story, how she hate the police officers, and he said that one day his father who was a preacher was arrested. Then when he went to plead with his father's guilt, the father was arrested because he had the gun in the Bible. He was hiding the gun in the Bible. It means the father was one of those spiritual leaders who are helping Mau freedom fighters to facilitate them. We must be able to understand and welcome Sister Wangari, who is the Kenyan Mau freedom fighters coordinator. We must be able to understand that the Mau were having those who are in the forest, and there are those who are outside the forest who are actually helping those in the forest in terms of information, in terms of supplying for food, in terms of supply for ammunition. So the father of Gushera, who was a pastor, was actually hiding the bullet, the gun in the Bible, and he was arrested for that. So when Gushera goes to negotiate for his father's release, the white man police officer actually tells her to open her legs, which means the white man tells this young lady that the freedom of your father is within your legs. And this was clearly abuse because you see, this man, white man, was feeling like he had to actually take away the virginity of this young innocent lady in order to save their father. And this was actually disgusting to this lady. So this lady went back to believe in the religion because the father was a religious person. The lady went back to pray and meet the pastor. They were praying daily and asking the pastor, why don't the God help my father? Then one day when he came back, the police officer told him again, this is the last time that if you don't save your father, you'll not see him again. And simply because the police officer wanted to sleep with this lady to release their father. These are some of the struggles most of our women went through, even during independence. And even today, it is so surprising that some people still say that some men still demand that they must sleep with a woman in order to give them job, which is very pathetic that it goes on up to date because that should not actually be the case. So Bushara refused to sleep with this white man. Then when he came back, he realized the father was executed. That pain moved her, and she saw in her life that she will never sleep with any police officer. So when she gets into the pub in this restaurant, she gives this story of what happened for her, how police officers were chasing her, and how she hates the police officers. Then, unfortunately, the police officers actually came into that pub, into that restaurant where she was. And like she saw them before they joined the restaurant. Then she walked by the back door. Then just these people where Matigari was in this pub heard of the very loud noise. When they went out, they realized the police officers were setting the dogs to this lady. They were threatening this lady with a dog. So the dogs could come close and smear her. But the public and the people were just watching. They were just watching as this young lady was being terrorized by these two police officers using their dog. Then Matigari became courageous enough and told them, what are you doing? Until when do you allow fear to rule us? Why are these people having the right to actually dictate our society, to actually threaten our young ladies and our mothers and our sisters? And the police officers got scared. And that's how they ended up leaving the lady. The lady came back and decided now to be a follower of Matigari. Together, the young man who was the street boy who took Matigari to their house, now they decided the two of them to help Matigari. Then they went now to the tea farms to look for their family, the children and everything else. Because Matigari had sworn that after he got out of the forest, he was going to look for his family so that he can take the family to their home where he knew it was. Then at the evening, they failed to go the kid when the dawn was coming. Then they decided, let's go to our home then. If there's no kids, then you, Bushera, and you, Moriek, will be my kids. So let's go to my home. And when they were going to his home, he found two white men, one white man and one black man. In the description of that book, he said these people were actually looking alike, despite of the color, the pose, how they were standing, how they were speaking the same language in English, they were alike. And this is a similarity that actually is being drawn to show how the white man and the black man after independence looked the same. And this is what almost becoming the same up to date. How the white man and black man are trying to look the same, despite of only the difference in skin pigmentation. We dress the same, we talk the same, we do almost everything the same. So the white man actually Matigari saw these two men and he decided to go straight to the gate. He passed them and he told them the young black man who was John. Remember the house worker who was called John Boy, who was the loyalist of the white man. Now this young black man here was the son of that black man. Then the other white man here was the son of that white man who sent Matigari out of his house. So Matigari came back to his house. Then when he walked to the gate, this black young man asked him, "Are you mad, young old man? Where are you going?" And he said, "Okay, I need the key to my house." And I said, "Which house?" He said, This was my house. And I need to get in, I need to rest." Now the young man became more furious. "How do you want to rest? Do you know this story?" And he gave them the story how he was sent away from his house. So unfortunately, he was giving the story to the sons of the people he killed who sent him away. So they got mad and furious at him. One of this young man, the black man, decided to whip this old man while Gushera and Muruki were hiding somewhere watching the old man. Then the white young man went to call the police officers. This young white man is the one who was now owning that factory where the black people are working, and is the one now who's owning the farm which was belonging to Matigari, the tea farm where people are plucking the tea. So he came back with the police officers, this year white man, and when he came back with the police officers, it happened that these police officers that he called this time around were the same police officers that Matigari chased away when they wanted to actually unleash the dogs to the young lady Gushera. Now the police officers took him and took him to the prison. In the prison now they met some other different prisoners who were actually arrested that day also. And that's when the story became now so sweet. As the prisoners were sharing their experiences and the stories, and they started sharing their stories where they were talking of the Last Supper. There were so many stories that they shared. And from those stories, there is when one of them actually decided to nickname Matigari, that from now henceforth he would be called the truth seeking justice. That's how they nicknamed Matigari. And in fact, it is said uh, a bit deeper, then the one who was already in, the drunkard, asked, then he turned to Matigari, "From today, you'll be known as the seeker of truth and justice. Don't take it too hard. The Son of God was baptized by John the Baptist. That is why I have taken the liberty to baptizing you. Truth seeking justice." The peasant mused on the drunkard's words slowly. Just justice seeking truth, the seeker of truth and justice. So when Matigari came in out, when he came from the forest, he was called Matigari. But in this prison here, they decided now to nickname him the truth seeker and justice. So that's the name now he got, the seeker of truth and justice. And he was baptized by the drunkard man who says just as John the Baptist was baptized, he has now decided to baptize Matigari with the justice, seek truth, the seeker for truth and justice. So that's where we want to start today, because from that day they decided they were able to break out of the prison where they were arrested together, because that young lady called Gushera, when he realized that Matigari was arrested, for the first time, he decided to actually break her virginity by sleeping with a police officer who was a white man who had the keys to this prison. He slept with that man, and when that police officer was asleep, he decided to take the key and open the prisons, and Matigari went out of the prison, and all of them were actually released. Inside here, there was a spy who was arrested with them. And this tendency of for the white man putting spies within our midst is something that started a long time ago. So when they went and broke out of the prison, then that's now Matigari getting out of prison, baptized again as a seeker for truth and justice. And this is where our class today will be focusing on part 2 of this history, which will be purely Matigari journey to seek justice and truth. Up to that moment, I'll maybe allow some 10 minutes for interaction in regards to what I've said. That was the previous. I was doing a recap from the previous class. Anybody who have any question they might have to ask from that previous class? Before now I delve into the class for today, which will take me around 20 minutes presentation. Anybody who have to ask anything or have to say anything so far? I'll give you the floor for the next 10 minutes probably. We can interact. Just feel free to unmute yourself. Anybody with anything? Okay. Nobody has anything to say so far. Then or anything to ask in regards to the recap of our previous class? Anything somebody might want to add? Because I was just giving a recap of the previous class.
Just to say that it's interesting how I didn't catch the woman who, when she wanted to get her father released, she refused to sleep with the officer. And then I'm thinking probably then through disappointment and maybe her idealism kind of just faded, and this time she just didn't care and she did what she had to do to release Matigari. So that I think that was an interesting change in her values and maybe the way that she saw the world.
Yeah, Sister Maria, indeed you are bringing a serious point, because you see, in our previous class, you have been talking about Thursday class about the religion, the idealism and the materialism and the position of the spirits and maybe the outside and the inside world. I think for the first experience, when this young lady actually obeyed her heavenly father, because she says very well that she had two fathers, the heavenly father and the earthly father. When she depends too much on the idealism, the idea that there's God outside there will come and save us, and when she actually believed that much that there are forces outside that could save her father, then she realized that she could not save her father, and her father died without that force that the father was working for to save her. And I see this is how many of course African religious leaders were actually lied to in terms of religion for some time, until they actually ended up dying and giving their life for the same religion that actually oppressed them and did not save them. So I think the second time when Matigari was in, her conscience came back and she now actually left the idealism and decided to be more of materialist, I will say so that she could be able to know that the future of Matigari was actually in her hand, and there was no heavenly father that will come to save Matigari. And therefore, she has to do everything and even break the beliefs she got from the religious aspect that stopped her from actually saving her father. She could not actually see another person going down. I think that's what she did, and I think that's very good that you are trying to raise it. Is that correct with what you are trying to think, Sister Myra?
Yeah, exactly what you said. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody with any other interjection? Okay. If there's no interjection, then I'll proceed. Now we are talking about no longer Matigari, but the seeker for truth and justice. So yes, Matigari is out of prison. Already the news is out there that they broke out of prison, and people could say it. In fact, it's so funny that the police officer who then came when he realized that these people had broken from the prison, he said something that, let me see if I can be able to trace what he said clearly. Because it's recorded that, yes, it is recorded that when the police officer came out and realized that the doors of the prison were open, this is what he said. Our policemen just fell on the floor, pleading with God in heaven, have mercy on me, O Lord, for I pleading with God in heaven, for I am a sinner before you, thee. I beg you to tell me if it is your hand that set them free, as you once did ago with the case of Paul and Capernaum's prisoners. So it is like Matigari, to the people, they actually never believed who he was. They thought like, was it Jesus who came back for salvation? Or the villagers and the people, local people thought like, now, these are the patriots who actually survived the bullets. Our soldiers have come back. And in fact, as they were saying, it was like, it's being recorded somewhere that there's what they were saying that people were now giving their own stories, how things happen. So when Matigari left the prison as a seeker of justice and truth, he was moving around now to seek for justice and truth. He went to the people in the different shopping centers, everywhere, shopkeepers and their customers were crowded on the counters and the entrance. They were just discussing the story of Matigari. And in fact, Matigari came to ask them all along. He was coming close and asking them, please, do you know where can I find truth and justice? And they could actually rub him off. No, stop interfering with our stories. Who is this old man, confused man? He left there. He went even to visit the eating places. People were so absorbed in the extraordinary tales of Matigari that they often even forgot to drink their tea or even eat their food. They just sat there to listen to the stories. So people could hear the stories of how things happen, how people were actually talking about Matigari. And one of the story was the story when in this place of the restaurant where these people are saying that Ngaruro Wakiriro was that old man I've said that met Matigari when Matigari was torn. So people are saying that, do you remember how Ngaruro Wakiriro addressed the meeting yesterday? Everybody's heart was beating. His word was so encouraging. And he said, our patriots are still living. That's what he said to them. He told them now how Matigari had appeared to him. Then now they believed. You see, this was like the people were so oppressed. And when the Mau Mau people, the freedom fighters, were either killed or were in the forest, people gave up. But when the story of Matigari came up, people believed now, yes, really, our soldiers and our patriots are back for us. And they are here to save us and walk with us. So the stories continue. He could move all over in every places asking the people, where can I seek truth and justice? In fact, in one instance, he went to the law courts. Those awaiting trial were all talking about Matigari, even when they're at the law court waiting for their trial. Then one of them was saying in that line when they were in the law court, why can't he come here, that Matigari, to loosen these fetters and set me free? Then some said, are you sure that this is what really happened? Did you read the papers? These newspapers, people never sleep, do they? How did they get to know something that happened over the last night? These were people in the line of the courts trying to discuss about Matigari. Then he said, as they were saying, the newspaper said that it wasn't all that late. There was only one police officer on duty, as most of others had gone to the factory to beat the guard and the striking workers. That day, there were workers who were striking in that factory I had said about. And they said that the only one police officer who was left. And that's how they were saying the police officer, when he woke up and realized that the doors of the prison were open, he started to plead with God to tell, oh God, please have mercy on me if you're the one who have actually opened this gate for the other guy. Then Matigari just listened to them. But even there, he asked them same story. He asked them, where can I actually get truth and justice? As he said that Matigari just arrived, only to find a man speaking of pointing fingers to his direction, telling him, go away. He interrupted their conversation with this greeting. Tell me, my people, where in this country can one find truth and justice? And one of them just turned to him and asked him, what did you say? He repeated, I'm looking for truth and justice in this country. Then somebody just asked, you really brought yourself to this cause in search of truth and justice? That was so sarcastic, because we always believe that in the court's corridors is where we can find truth and justice. Then when he went there, even those who were in the line the courts who are waiting to be served justice actually were surprised to see a man coming there to ask truth and justice. And then they say, but this is not where the judges and lawyers are to be found. That's what Matigari asked them when they were so amazed. Is this not where the lawyers and the judges are to be found? Then somebody says, shall I answer your question with the real truth? Yes, I'm looking for no justice other than the justice which has come from the roots of the truth. Then one told them, let me give you a bit of advice. Go get a rope and hang yourself immediately. For your kind of questions will lead you to the grave. So you see, it's very funny that even people who are actually in court corridors seeking truth and justice could not actually answer to the question of Matigari, where could he actually find truth and justice? And that advice they could tell them, he just go hang himself, because such questions will lead him to troubles. Then he looked for truth and justice in the grasses, in the bushes. He searched among the thorns, in the shrubs, in the dishes, and the moleholes, and in the bird nest. He searched for them in the hall of the nature. He was like one deranged, and all the while his heart beat. A farmer does not stop sowing but just because one crop has failed. The seeker of justice does not stop searching until he finds it. Truth never dies. Justice is mightier than strength. Tell me, where on this earth can one find truth and justice? He came across some shepherds on the plains. As he drew to where they were, he saw that they had two radios. One, a Sanyo radio model, and another one is a Philips model of radio. Some of old people here can know that. People are a bit aged than myself. They were full in blast. They were both tuned to the same channel. And every time that radio station could say, this is the voice of truth. Radio bleeping in the wilderness, the voice of truth, had become the herdsman flute that lured the hares to sleep. He ran away, but not bound for anywhere. The announcer's voice seemed to chase him across the plain. He came across an old woman collecting the rubbish outside her shelter in the wilderness. This is more of a sarcastic story here, maybe pictorial story. Her hair was tied. A comb had not passed through it for a fair while. Matigari walked up to her and asked her for some water to drink. Matigari says, if you continue like this, you'll end up like me. That's what this old man told Matigari. Picking leaves and talking to yourself, she shouted. Although Matigari was standing close to her, what are you looking for in the wilderness? Matigari answered, I'm looking for truth and justice. The woman laughed, a mix of genuine pity and sarcasm, and handed him water to drink. The woman says, my dear Wadara, you cannot find answers to your questions here where nobody lives. Truth and justice are to be found in the people's action. This is a very good answer. Truth and justice are to be found on people's action. Right and wrong are embedded in what people do. But even among the people, you still have a problem in finding the answers to your question. And you know why? Let me whisper this to your ears. Then he told Matigari, come closer. It is because of fear. There is too much fear in this country. How does the saying go? Too much fear breeds misery in our land. And the woman told Matigari, leave me in peace. Go to the wise men, those who know how to read the stars. Do they still exist? Matigari asked. I thought that the shepherds were the wise men. They have been always studying the stars. The stars used to guide them in the wilderness. It was during their wandering that they composed songs containing all the wisdom gathered from the star. So the woman told her, go then. No, the woman told him one thing. They no longer study the stars. They study the voice of truth. So even those who are studying the stars to get wisdom no longer seek wisdom, but listen to the radios, the so-called voice of truth, to guide them. Then he told Matigari, Go then and plead with those who study books. Books are the modern stars. Those who study them are wise men. So that's how Matigari actually left. Then he went to seek one of his friends, one who was actually a student. He told him, I have traveled the length and the breadth of this country looking for truth and justice. I met a woman in the place who said to me, why have you left behind the students of modern stars? That reminded me of you, and that's why I'm here. Then he said, let me start by search afresh. One must never scorn a grain of sand or a drop of rain. That is why I am here. Open those books that you are studying and tell me, where can a person guided by the belt of peace find truth and justice in this country? The student replied, listen, still trembling and full of fear. These days are not like the days we used to know our yesterday. Did you hear the radio announcement today that 5 university students were sentenced for 5 years imprisonment in maximum prison? And that is not all. The student hesitated, he felt. As he spoke, his voice was full of tears of many years. Then he said, over a period of time, the student told him the story that he himself also was about to be arrested. In fact, he said, I found that they had called for a prayer meeting at the church to pray for those who had been arrested. They also wanted to pray for peace and love in this country. Then, over a period of time, the child actually, this student was one of the person who was actually imprisoned by Matigari.
Now it's retirement time, is it?
Sorry, Sister Ida, you're welcome. So I'm saying that Matigari, in his search for
So
truth
sorry,
and
I'm
justice,
just talking to someone at the bus stop. Have you started?
Okay. Yeah, we are moving on, don't worry. So when this student was asked about this, I'm saying this student that Matigari now went to ask for truth and justice, and he told the student to open the books they are reading so that he can tell him where on this earth can he find truth and justice. Then actually Matigari, this student was very hesitant. Then Matigari actually said one thing. There are two types of modern students. Those who love the truth and those who sell the truth. What about modern teachers? Teachers of modern stars, on parting, said to the student, great fear breeds misery in the land. Give a little time for that. Then he went to the teacher. So you see, Matigari has moved from the shops. He has moved from the all corners. He went even in the court seeking for justice. He went in the wilderness for the shepherds asking for justice. He went to the old woman there in the wilderness. The woman told her to go to the students who read the stars, because those are the wise people now read the books. He came to the student in the classroom. The student was afraid because this one student was one who was arrested by Matigari. So he was afraid, and Matigari told him that, truth is what breeds fear. And Matigari told him there are two types of students, as he has said here, that there are those students who say the truth and there are those students who love the truth. Now, Matigari moved to the teacher because they are now moved from the student. So in the teacher, he said, when he arrived, the teacher was in the house. The pen was in his hand. When he saw Matigari, he felt suddenly weak. His welcome to Matigari came in the form of a question. What do you want? Matigari told him, I've been roaming all over. So you haven't heard the news? He cut him in short. What news? They're looking for you, hunting for one who is hunting for the truth. That's what Matigari asked himself. So they are hunting for one who is hunting for the truth. As the saying goes, the hunter may very well find himself hunted. This country has changed from what it was yesterday, or what it was when we fought for it. We have no part to play in it anymore. I'm thinking of going to another country where there are not many problems as here. This is what the teacher was telling Matigari. There are two words. Matigari replied to the teacher. There are two words. There is the world of those who accept things as they are, and there is that of those who want to change things. Which world do you belong to? That's the question Matigari asked the teacher. What? What change? Revolution? Are you one of those radicals who talk about revolution? I think that it is better that you leave then. I don't want your radicalism to rub me off. Revolution is like leprosy. Very interested quote here. Revolution is like leprosy. You won't tell me where I can find it. Find what? Leprosy? Matigari said, truth and justice. When we were in the prison, did I hear you ask if I cannot teach truth, what should I teach then? Then this teacher told him, since we parted last night, I haven't slept a wink. I haven't rested either. I've been wandering all over looking for truth and justice. Then I was told to go to those who teach modern wisdom, the modern wise men of modern stars. That is why I am here. Take your chalk and pen and tell me where in this country can a person guarded with the belt of peace can find truth and justice. The teacher told him, shh, stop talking so loudly. The teacher cautioned him, yesterday is gone and forgotten. Today is a new day. Tomorrow will be another day. Do you hear that the teachers and lecturers were being detained without trial? Look at me. I have a wife and 2 kids. What would they eat if I am sent to prison? And all of asking too many questions. The thief told us that there is a lot of wisdom in learning to keep one's lips sealed. He ought to have added that there are people who reap benefits from singing the approved true. Those who dance the steps of approach dance have since been ordained into that order of cowardice and join the ranks of those whose lips are sealed. You better go. No, wait a minute. I've thought of something else. Listen, if you really want to find the answers of your question, you should go to the priest. He never put down his Bible. He does nothing else but read the Bible all day long and interpret it to the people. He might be able to tell you where you can find truth and justice. Then Matigari left. So this is almost the other person. So Matigari is moving to the last person. He's now going to the preacher whom he has been directed to go and seek truth and justice. Then as he arrived, he found the preacher was actually murmuring as he was praying. And this is part of course, what the preacher was praying. Just a bit of it. Just as you said, this is the preacher now praying. Just as you said, Lord, that we should keep our lamps ready for all times, like the 5 wise maiden. For 2 people will be in the field, the one shall be taken and the other shall be left. 2 women shall be grinding the mill, one shall be taken and the other shall be left behind. You should always be ready, for none knows when the Lord will return. In that process, as he was praying so many other things, Matigari actually cleared his throat. He had not seen Matigari, he was just bending there praying. Then the priest stopped abruptly and leapt to his feet. The sweat that had broken on his brow made it glisten. His heart was beating heavily, but he tried to be still. He asked Matigari, who are you? Before Matigari could answer, the priest remembers his prayer and how those who had not tended to the least among them would be thrown in the everlasting fire. He hurriedly began doing the good deeds to Matigari, driven by fear. Please sit down. He gave Matigari a seat and started welcoming him with kind words. So the conversation continued. Then as the conversation continued, of course, he told him so many things. Are you hungry? Are you thirsty? Those questions in the Bible. Do you have any problem? He was trying to be nice to Matigari. Then Matigari told him, my thirst and anger are not for material things. My only thirst and hunger are to do with the troubled spirit. I have traveled wide and far seeking for truth and justice. He asked him, truth and justice? He told him, yes. And you do not have any problem at all? He said, no. Then, Matigari told the pastor, but you know, I do not belong to your, of course, religion or to your churches. But a weary bird will perch and nest on any tree. I have searched in the marketplaces, in the shops, in the crossroads, in the fields, in the courts of law, in the wilderness. I have walked, ridden in matatu, in a donkey cars, in the buses, in lorries, in trains, and in boats. I've been to the police, to the judges, to all different government officers. I've been to the students, to the teachers, but all in vain. None of these people were able to answer my question. Finally, somebody told me, go to the wise modern men of God. This is why you are here. Then he told him, you read and interpret God's word. Let me unload on you a burden which is weighing heavily on me. I shall not keep anything away from you, for the sound advice can only be given in a reply to a frank word. Then he narrated on how everything happened, on how Goshera had a spiritual father who could not come at his intercession. Then actually the father was killed. Then Goshera came along now to give her virginity to allow Matigari to escape. Then that's how they continue. And then as he was continuing the conversation, he asked some other question. That did the lady sin? And actually the pastor said, no, he did a sin. So stop talking from there. Then the hand went on with the conversation, but Matigari reached as extent that he asked him that it is true when Matigari actually listened to what the preacher was saying. Because Matigari asked him, where are the truth and justice in this and in all this world? And where can somebody find truth and justice? And he said, the sun never stops to let the king go by. I have a ceremony to perform. You have asked me 2 questions. I'll endeavor to answer them. First, it is true that the world is upside down. That's the pastor replying. That is precisely why God sent his son to come here and set it right with his eternal love. Then go tell Gushera that, isn't that what you call the woman? Tell her this. When people grieve over the sins they have made, they must know that they will never find peace unless they go to the cross. When a sinner leaves his sin behind and returns to the Lord, he is good and is full of forgiveness. You should worry less about the sins you committed before you knew the Lord, but more about those who you have committed from the moment you knew the Lord. Christ is the only one who can right a world which is upside down. He is the only one who can set it right. Then on the matters of politics, like the question of finding the truth and justice, I'll never answer you the way Jesus answered the Pharisees, who had gone to test him to confuse him with a question about the earthly rule, although they knew very well his kingdom was in heaven. And he told them, render unto Caesar what is for Caesar, and unto God what is for God. So today I tell you, if you want to know the heavenly truth, just listen to the words of God. So that's what he said. But he told him that I'll advise you, I'll give you some advice. We are very lucky in this country because His Excellency, that's the president, believes on Christianity. He's also a very enlightened man. He has a minister who deals with the truth and justice. The Minister of Truth and Justice is coming to pay a visit to the residents of this area. As you know, you often tour around. So kindly come and attend to ask the same questions. Up to that moment, I'll take another break for around 10 minutes to ask any question. Then I'll finish in the next 10 minutes. It's a long story anyway. So anybody who might have any concern, any question to raise, or any follow-up, as I try to take a short break, I'll be answering as I take some water, and then I'll come back to continue and finish the story in the next 10 to 15 minutes. So any question or any issue that you found has come across that you might want to share? Yes, Sister Ida.
Please, what is the book called? And okay, what's the book called, please?
It is in the screen here. It's called Matigari Manjirugi. In the screen that I've shared in the poster, The Patriots Who Survived the Bullets. That's the name of the book.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry, I was working, so I haven't really registered things. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, welcome. The next person is Sister Wangari. Sister Wangari, I've said Sister Wangari is the Mamau coordinator in Kenya. So she coordinates Mau issues, the veteran, the descendant, the son and daughters of the Mau veteran. She's trying to fight for justice for them, and we've been walking this journey together. So she's more of in depth to the Mau issue. Sister Wangari, kindly please ask your question. And nice to see you. Hi.
Hi, everybody. Thank you very much, brother comrade. I just want to say something concerning that book. The whole of the book, when Kogi wa Thiong'o, who is a son of the Mau Mau freedom fighters, he wrote this to make people know, or the children of Mau Mau, or what happened to the Mau Mau freedom fighters, and that even after they were said to have been given independence, there is still not freedom. And again, he wanted to make people understand freedom fighters, they believed in the true spirituality, not the religion of the white man. And this book he wrote in a parable way, because he could not tell it direct. And he knew those who understand what the Mau Mau freedom fighters went through, and even how they used to be cheated. You let me do this so that I can save so and so. But they also knew they would still do whatever they have decided. So even as you have heard about that girl, even if she could have given her body, still the father could have been killed. And again, the father whom you are hearing is a true case. It is not just a name given. It is a true case. The little person who was one of the pastors during the Mau Mau, I know him. He's one of the 5 key leaders of the Mau Mau who started Mau Mau. He was called Peter Kigondu. So I just want to make sure you understand that this is not just a story, it is the whole truth, but he didn't use the names of those people who are already, who he is putting there, but the people are true people who are Mau Mau. It is only that, just like the way Jesus was using the parable, that is why what he did. But this is the true story of what the Mau Mau people went through. Actually, even he was called vicar, because in Anglican church they used to call them vicar. When he was taken to prison, lucky he was not killed, but during that very time he was killed later. That he was still killed, but he was taken out naked and with the collar at the neck, naked without any coverage, any cloth. Allowed all different prisons, I mean in detainee camps, so that people could see that even though he was ordained, he was still a Mau Mau, and they were not ready to forgive him. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Any other last concern before I proceed?
Thank you for telling us.
Thank you, Sister Ida. Any other person who has anything they feel they should raise before now I finish the last part of this? Because once I'm done, we'll now try to have a general sharing and contextualizing whatever we have had here in regards to the current affairs in Africa, whether we still really have justice today, in spite of everything else, whether do we really people even understand what's justice and everything like that. So any other last concern? Anybody who has to raise something before I now finish up the last part of this? Okay, then let me finish then. Now we have reached where Matigari is now being sent to the Minister of Truth to seek for justice and truth. It's very funny that the government was having a Ministry of Truth and there was no truth. So there's a whole minister that's serving truth and justice, I remember even in Kenya here, we were having the cabinet minister for truth and justice sometimes back. Now, the meeting called by the truth and justice was well attended. Minister for truth and justice was well attended because people had been told that he was going to resolve the dispute between the workers and the factory owners. Remember, I'd said that the factory workers had actually went on strike, and that factory was belonging to Williams. Williams, who was the son of the white man who sent Matigari out of the house. William, the young man who still called the police officers to arrest Matigari. So a lot of dignitaries were present. They were representative of ministers from ruling parties and those other areas. Then the country had a good international image in the West because they had a role of truth and justice. Then people came, of course. Then in that process, the police officers were also present. And then after the prayers, of course, the provincial officer introduced the Minister of Truth and Justice. Then let's listen to what he said. The minister then stood up and began his speech. He said, I shall not beat around the bush. I shall speak the plain truth and injustice. I am the soul of this government. I am the soul of this nation. I'm the light in the dark tunnel. I am the torch of development. Why do I say this? Because without the rule of law, truth and justice, there's no government, no nation, no civilization. The rule of law is the true measure of civilization. I should know. I was brought up in the law. I'll abide by the law, and the law abides in me. I have been taught the law, and I've staunchly believed in law. I am the guardian of law today. I make the law and ensure that it is kept. He went ahead and said, my father was the first person in this country to advocate for loyalism. So this minister is the son of the loyalists, those who collaborated with the white men. Some might wonder, loyalty to whose law? To the colonial law? Let me tell you, law is law. This is a very contradicting thing. So this minister was the son of course, a collaborator. Want to say that they are the people, first of all, a champion for the law, and that even the colonial law was a law. He called them that law is law. Those who realize this from the beginning are the only people of any worth in this my country today. Yes, we loyalists are the ones. Proceeds. We loyalists are the ones. Yes, you say. Yes, we loyalists are the one in power today, and that one now you can tell clearly from what Sister Wangari is saying. Those who collaborated by the government and the people were given position. The true freedom fighters were actually forgotten. And he says, long live loyalism. You see, he's praising loyalism here. Let me explain. Look at John Boy. That's the son of that housemaid guy who helped to kill Matigari. And Matigari killed his father. He says, he and I went to the same school together. Isn't that so, John? We went to Fort Harare in South Africa. Fort Harare in South Africa. We went also to Britain together. Do you remember our digs in Islington? Who nicknamed you Bromboy? So he was giving some of the story here. He says, he went ahead and said, yes, this boy you see here, his father was killed by a terrorist for obeying and abiding by the law. Look how far his son has gone today. He's scavenging the rubbish in these garbage yards. You do all agree that he does something great. So that's how he goes ahead to praise the son of course, a loyalist also. Then he goes ahead also to praise himself on how he look rich. He said, look at me. I have a 7-story house here. I have 3 swimming pools. Yes, 3. One for my children, one for my guests, one for me and my wife. I also got a sauna on those in Finland. The house is decorated by marbles from Italy, imported Italian marbles. Have what the English lords call family coat of arms. In other words, the crumbles of the house. My coat of arms is a picture of coffee bush, guarded over by 2 whips. Below is the family motto, the destroy terrorists. Look at anybody who is in worth today. Be from this tribe or that tribe. They were all those who have been abiding by the law since the colonial time. That's what he's saying. What about the children of those who took access and homemade guns, claiming that they were going to fight against the rule of law? Where are they today? Where is the independence that they fought for? That is what they are still shouting at the bottom of the ladder. In fact, it is we who abided by the law who prevented the country from being destroyed. These are very actually disheartening words from this, of course, puppet and Colonel Massa. We have so many puppets today also. He says, if you look at the situation disappointing without finding the kind of distortion, you'll find that some of those fictions writers, you can see that it is those who obeyed the colonial law who brought about independence. Is this really true? These are questions we need to ask ourselves, but we know it's not true. He says that those who actually, this guy is claiming that those who obey the colonial law are the people who brought independence. So he goes on and says his own things. He went ahead and say, in fact, he goes ahead and say that the minister was very pleased with the rendering of the song. So he was actually being praised there. And he say, I hope you have heard the truth for yourselves. He continues. If it were not for us, the loyalists, what independence will you be enjoying today? Tell me, what independence? Of graveyards? You should count yourself lucky that the government is led by a man who is merciful and a Christian. Just imagine the other day, some of people at the barrack took off arms in the order for mutiny. I think this now was during the time of Moi era in Kenya around 1982 that this book was written. Of course, it was written around 1986. Did they want a coup or what? They won't even give us a chance to ensure that their fires of independence continue burning steadily. Why did they not mutiny during colonial rule? And these students here are demonstrating outside here Western Embassy simply because these governments are helping South Africa. Why can these students follow the footsteps of permanent professor of paratology? How can we dictate to the other country what they should do with their own money? So this is another story when the students were, of course, demonstrating when the apartheid rule was in South Africa, just the same way we are now organizing for demonstration for Niger. So this guy was talking sarcastically. Of course, he says so many words that are actually certain that I might not think that I'm really ready to read them here. He said, in other words, if these were gangsters' government, what do you think will have happened to those university students? So he said a lot. Then as he was speaking, other people came in also to speak. He went ahead to give a ruling. Before he gave a ruling, he went to the pastor. The pastor who spoke, of course, read to the people Matthew chapter 24, verse 23, which he said, then if any man who shall not unto you, here is Christ, or there, believe it not, for there shall arise false prophets. So here he was trying to say that MATIGARI was one of also the false prophets. Now when he got to the end of the sentence, two police officers answered a peasant, the thief and the murderer. These are the people who were actually arrested. Then the only two missing were MATIGARI and Gisheru, the lady who helped MATIGARI. They talked a lot. Then after that, they moved on. John Boy, of course, stood up and then handed over the check. So the owner of the factory, that white man and the John Boy, decided to hand over the check to the government to support the government. So these are the people who actually are actually, let me say, they are the people who own the factory, who actually make our people suffer in the factory. But now they give the donations to the government. And remember, there was supposed to be a mitigation between the workers and the company. Now, because this person gave the donations, as how you see, most of the white people still give donation to our country to influence our country's decisions. When they gave the donations, and they praise the guy and they say, no, you see, these are the people who should be embraced, that the people who are actually giving donation to government. This is very impressive, you say. But the most impressive thing this company has done, a real revolution, is that they are giving the ruling party few shares. And that's what they said. So they went around to praise the person. Then he ruled that actually the company was fair. And from today moving forward, he doesn't want to hear anything else. He says, where is our government? We workers? Okay. sorry, Abi, let me go back a bit. He said the Minister of Truth said that before I finish, I would like to remind the masses here that the strikes are banned by the presidential decree. Before, in colonial times, we used to go for strikes demanding for our independence. But what other independence are we striking for? This is your government. This is the workers' government. Furthermore, His Excellency the President is first of all the first-class worker, number one. So this government is led by a worker. What more do you want? Are there any other question? Then Garuro Wakiiro, that man, stood in the middle of the people and he said, speaking on behalf of the workers, I would like to say that a dispute or disagreement is always between two parties. Our dispute is between the company owner and the workers. Our dispute is between the labor and the capital. But the owners of the capital should always remember that even when the capital in question comes from the laborer of the hands, your verdict only shows that you in the government and the ruling party are on the side of the capital, on the side of those who own the companies and the farms. I have one question. Where is our government, we workers? We are not asking for other people's property. We are only asking for adequate remunerations for our labor, the labor of our hands, that is all we own. It is only property. We set this labor in the labor market. Tell me, you who go to the marketplaces, if the buyer refuses to pay the price being asked for the seller, as the latter not to refuse the part of the waivers until he gets a suitable price for them, or one agreed upon between the buyer and the seller. Our strike action is just such a refusal. We are withdrawing our labor from the market until the buyer agrees with our prices. We cannot go back to work unless the demands are met. All we are asking for our wages increment to meet our ever-spilling prices of food and goods. We are also asking that the wages be increased in proportion to the rate of inflation. We are also asking for Saturdays off and to be paid overtime for working in Saturdays. We also demand John Boy and Robert Williams to be removed from the board of directors to have new directors. These two are worse than those who were during the colonial days. Then, of course, it was applauded, but they interjected. They took him to prison. They arrested him for speaking rudely before the crowd. Then, certainly, Matigari came up. Matigari just was also in the crowd. After they arrested Ngaruro for speaking and asking the questions, Matigari came. He stood. Matigari spoke in such a way that everyone in the room could hear his words clearly. With a firm voice, he warned the policeman, "Do you dare to touch me? I am as old as this country." There was not the slightest trait of fear in his voice. The courage and the strength in his voice made the police officers start. Then he proceeded. As he moved along, he said, Matigari moved into the middle of the crowd and he began to speak, still holding his hands in his pocket. "You have asked why nobody wants to ask questions. I'll answer you. Taking precaution does not mean that one is a coward. Leopard once asked here, my friend, why do you ever pay me a visit?" Of course, that's a story that he shares a bit. Then Matigari went ahead and said one thing. "Too much fear breeds misery in our land. So knowing full well that you are the leopard here, I'll put a question to the Minister of Truth and Justice. For I have spent the whole day roaming around the whole country looking for somebody who could give me the answer to my question. Yes, I have walked and traveled by all means. But I have my question. This is my question. The builder built a house. The one who watched while it was being built moved into it. The builder sleeps in an open air, no roof over his head. The tailor makes the cloth. The one who does not even know how to thread a needle wears the cloth. The tailor walks in rags. The tiller tends the crops in the field. The one who reaps where he never sowed yearns for having eaten too much. The tiller yawns for not eating anything at all. The worker produces goods. Foreigners and parasites dispose of them. The workers is left empty-handed. Where are truth and justice in this app? The Minister of Truth and Justice paused for a while and struck a completive move before answering. Stop speaking in parable. If you want to ask questions, then do in a plain language. You know, you have nothing to fear. So now, pour out your problems and you'll soon see the preacher did the right thing to send you to me. Yes, he did the right thing. Mine is not a long story, Matigari said, but it is not a short one either. It is the story you know. You now see in very room. My story is made up of me. I built a house, I cultivated the land, I worked in the industry, but Setra William aided the servant John, ended up with all the wealth. I said to myself, the difference between the robber and the robbed can only be settled in struggle. So I went into the forest. So he explained how he went to the forest, killed everybody else, and came out of it. Then the minister started. He took a handkerchief from his pocket and wiped his face. The police officers whispered. So they wanted, actually, they were so discouraged with what Matigari said, then they wanted now to arrest him. Then as they moved forward, they moved closer to arrest Matigari. And then they managed to actually capture him and told him to raise up his hand. And that's how they took him to prison. They imprisoned him as well. And after that, of course, the judges were sent to go and seek justice for them, to listen to their cases. Then immediately they were brought back on the podium. Then Matigari and his friend Garuro was actually taken to the mental health center, because they say that those people were actually mentally disoriented and that those people were having some mental problems. So they be retained there as they actually seek for their health. And that's how Matigari and his friend landed in another prison for the second time. Now, that marks the end of the second part of this question and this presentation. We'll move to the third part. That third part, which will be after Matigari now again escapes the mental health center. How does he come back and how does he wage the war that leads to his last part of his struggle? So basically, that's the end of the presentation today. And I'd like anybody who has any question. Now we have 30 minutes to be an open session where you can relate this context and this story to what's going on in Africa. And you'll be able actually to share your thinking. So I'll be going around to ask every person. I mention your name, then you come, maybe you unmute yourself, tell us what do you think, how do you receive this story, and that can be related to the current context in Africa. So that's the end of my presentation. Let me go straight to Sister Shola. Sister Shola, what do you draw out of this conversation and the story? How can it relate to the current context in Africa? And what do you suggest? Sister Shola. Sister Shola? Okay. Let me go to Sister Maria. Sister Maria.
So I think there's a lot to unpack here. Just go
Your network is not that
the
well.
points
Shake
that
your bit.
jumped out at me. So it's interesting near the beginning of among the people, and he goes to different places. The different reactions. The ordinary people think that the prison is kept by some mystery, and then the students and the teachers, they know what's happening. They say the country of yesterday is not the country of today, but those who danced in step with the approved dance will reap the benefit. So they've decided to just keep quiet and live in fear and fall in line. So the ones that are educated, the wise ones, just go with the status quo, and they don't explain things to those that still think that maybe spirit helped to help the prisoners to escape. Then the minister's speech, for me, it rings very characteristic of politicians today who think especially presidents that last long in power. They think they are the law, the justice system, the police system, they're everything. And then I like the statement, the differences between the robber and the robbed can only be settled in struggle, which I think is so true today.
Thank you for that. Are you done?
Yes. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Let me go to Sister Ida. Sister Ida? Sister Ida? Okay, let me go to the King Mauli. The King Mauli, what can you draw out of whatever you've listened to? And how can you relate it to the current context in Africa? The King? The King Mauli, can you hear me? Okay, since people are not able to speak, let me go to Sister Wangari. Sister Wangari?
Yes, yes. Thank you. What I can say is now having known about and heard about Garoro and Matigari now being in prison because of their bravery facing their opponents is a true reflection of our today's former colonial masters puppets who are the presence of our today in Africa. And actually, until this group is out of leadership, justice for the Africans will never be given. Thank you.
Thank you for that. It is true that you must confirm that up to date, the freedom fighters are still seeking for truth and justice, even after almost 60 years. And it's very sad that some people who call themselves loyalists are here to brag and that they're the people who help independence and they're the right people. It is very disheartening, actually. And now that's the context of so many people still speak like that. They think that those who fought for freedom actually did something wrong and that they are the people who help the government, the loyalists. And now they are even reaping on the benefit of the freedom fighters, the same loyalists.
And we are going to succeed very soon. They will be out. And the justice of the Mau Mau freedom fighters will be given. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Let me go back to Sister Shola. Sister Shola? Sister Shola, are you able to speak? Okay, Sister Ida, back to you. Sister Ida.
Sorry. I think I'm afraid I may have to pass on this because I was half traveling. But it seems a very interesting story, and I'll make sure I catch up with whatever I've missed of it. Even though I know I've
Thank
heard
you,
it's
but
a
one
real
question.
nice one.
Okay, one question is, do you think where can we find truth and justice? Where can Africans find truth and justice for reparations? Or where do you think really we as people can find truth and justice in this world?
I'm trying to think. I think that our symbol is truth and justice in Ghana. Yeah. I think our symbol is freedom and justice. Freedom and justice.
And have you found any of them? Have you found freedom or justice up to date?
No, but I remember when I was young, they used to have the two eagles facing each other, and we used to see it when we were kids. So even though I've now changed it to truth and justice, we used to see it and think, oh, okay, that's our emblem. That's our emblem. But no, Truth and justice. That's a hard one.
Because Matiga researched on the shops, he went to the prisons, he went to the courts, he went to the teachers, he went to the student, he went to the pastors, to the Minister of Truth and Justice. And lastly, when he was in the Minister of Truth and Justice, what he found was arrest instead of truth and justice. He was arrested for questioning that. How do you find that?
Well, it reminds me that Julian Assange is. I read something and I thought, oh, I must pass this on to us, but somehow I haven't seen it recently. It says, or I saw it last week. He says that he's slowly shrinking away, sort of, and becoming a little nuts. So if he ever got his freedom, he would then grow again and become enlarged, and become part of the world. So I'm afraid it does sound sad if you end up in prison.
Now,
To
in the
me,
context of
I
what
could
you're
understand what he was saying, because here was a man who had all this freedom and was telling people all sorts of things that were happening. And I feel that this story is also is also could be part of what's happening to him. Instead of him, yes. So that's how. But I'm sure there are lots of people, lots of Julian Assange in prison who the same thing is happening to. Lots of others. So,
thank you for that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. The King Mauli, can you hear us? The King? The King Mauli? Can you unmute yourself? We haven't heard from the King Mauli and from Sister Shola. Can any of you unmute yourself? Okay, the King is having some problem. It seems his network has ejected him out. Sister Shola.
Oh yeah, excellent presentation. I'm just listening in. I'm learning all of this for the first time. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. But based on this question of searching truth and justice, if you were to be met by Matigari, where could you tell him that he can find truth and justice today? Sister Shola, if you were to meet Matigari today asking for truth and justice, what could you advise him? Okay. That's becoming hard. Maybe Sister Shola is not able to answer this. But let me go to Sister Maria. Sister Maria, do you think there's anywhere where we can find truth and justice as Africans today?
Well, I liked what the old woman said. Truth and justice are to be found in people's actions. Right and wrong are embedded in what people do. So for me, that says that it's up to us as Africans to decide to fight for truth and justice, is what I think. So to continue with the struggle.
Okay,
and I think the answer is the truth and justice. We don't have it yet, but it's within reach if we struggle for it.
so we are the truth and justice. It's within us.
That's what I think. Yes, I would say what the old woman said. I think she's one of the wise ones, and it's interesting that
But she ended up she ended up sending Matigari to the to the students. He says that the people are studying the modern truth. Is there any truth in the books we study today? Can we really find the truth and justice that can liberate us as Africans in the books we study today, or in the books
No.
written? I believe that
those books tend to
something that
divide
I
us.
believe is possible.
A lot of people have attitudes. So, if you're not educated, you can't say anything, or you can't understand this, that, and the other. But the books have actually divided Africans, I think. But I think the old woman, I mean, it's like she had given up. And I think it's not a coincidence that she was written as an old woman, because her time is finished. So she's just saying, you know, I mean, that's what it is now. I can't help you, which is sad.
Very interesting. But this context, this subject of the books, I think is based on what do we read. Because you see, I've been having issues with just reading anything. There are some books which can actually give us the truth of what happened. For example, for Africans, if you read even the book Destruction of Black Civilization, it actually tells you who we were, the truth of who we Africans were. But there are books that have been out there to actually show how inferior we were and how weak we are as Africans that actually form our mentality and our movement moving forward. But there are still some truth that we can find about our personality, our origin, and our history as people. But people just get to read anything else. And that's why I've been so curious on what do you read? Who is the author? What's their political stand or their opinion or their philosophies? Because you see, whatever we subject ourselves to read make us who we are. Look at our education system. It produced black Western citizens. So everybody who is educated a bit in this system think like a white man, think like they are more civilized, think that they are more grown up. But where do we find the real truth? In the books that we read. And it's so funny thing that even the students were afraid to answer this, and even the teachers are afraid to give the reality.
Right, yeah.
Well, the
Yes.
teacher
And
said
if
some
it-
years back. The teacher said
Sorry,
that
go on.
what will I if I don't the teacher said, what will I be teaching if I don't teach the truth? But now
Mhm.
when he was asked of the truth, he was afraid. And that's why
Yes.
Matigari insists of the fear. And I think
Yes.
the point of the fear is very important. He says that it is fear that controls us. And the only thing that actually is lacking among the Africans is the fear. We are fearful, not lacking. The most important thing that is stopping Africans from moving forward is the fear. Because the teacher knows the truth, he swore to teach the truth, but he's afraid now. The student knows the truth, he talked of the truth, but he's afraid now. That's why Matigari insists on the fear. So
Yeah.
it's fear that brings us today down as Africans. And if we can overcome our fears, as Nkrumah says, it is fears that created the gods, and it is fears that maintained them. You are told if you don't do that, you'll go to hell, you'll be banned, you'll be what? So it's the fear that keep on controlling us, and it's the fear that is the tool that you're being controlled with forever.
Yeah. Because still in many African governments now, people are very careful about what they say, because if they say something, they'll be arrested, just like Gary and his peer. Then also, I read a book which I refer to a lot called Pedagogy of the Oppressed. And in it says, I've forgotten the, hold on, I've got it here. So it's by Paulo Freire. And in it says that in addition to that fear which Brother Pigeon you've talked about, there's also that fear of freedom, where the oppressed think, but if what if we get our freedom, then what do we do? What will happen? What if it doesn't work? So there's different kinds of fear, I think, as well. So there's fear under the system, and then there's also fear of what will the freedom look like? What if, So yeah.
Okay. Brother Dekin Mauli, now you're back. Can you be able to share your thinking? Dekin Mauli? Comrade Dekin Mauli, are you able now to share your thinking? Or anybody who want to add anything? We are having 30 minutes to end. Anybody who want to add anything, can you just jump in immediately? Just unmute yourself and jump in. If there's anything you want to share. Anybody?
Can I jump in? If no one
Yes.
And then also, it's interesting the reference that was made to socialism, like in the speech that Gary made, the tailor that makes clothes, but then he goes around with brags. It's kind of how I see our resources. You know, we have the resources, but we actually live in poverty. They don't make us rich. You know, I think it speaks to those, it speaks to capitalism and its effect on the people that actually do the work. The laborers were fighting for their wages. And I think that's still very, very relevant today.
Yes, the question is, do we today actually Africans get appreciated pay for our labor? Even today, we are still having demonstration, industrial strike, even in the continent or outside there. It means that even up to date, we still not get fair share of what we struggle for. For example, there have been inflation, of course, in this continent as it was before in the whole world. How many people have even been getting salary adjustment in regards to their inflation? None. It's very limited. So it means even the workers today are living a poor life, even up to date. They're not getting the compassionate, of course, commensurate pay based on what they work on, you see. So the struggles are still here up to date. But the next question I want to ask, have we really gained back our properties even after independence? Do we really gain back our land? Did we really, because you see, like in Kenya, the land is still over 500,000 acres is being owned by the Kenyatta family. So did really Mau Mau people, the Aku people, get back their properties, their land that they went in the forest to fight for? Did we get our tea reserves like in Kenya here, where we have still multinational companies controlling the big land of tea, the big land of pineapples in Africa? So it's very clear then even up to date, we've never gained anything. Then why are we silent? It's the fear. It's the fear. We have been afraid to actually face and get our reality. And it's very clear here that also these multinational companies have been using this method that the John Boy and his Williams were using to bribe the government by donating government, giving government loans, actually enticing the government so that the government forgets about the people. And that's why you see the minister is saying that our president is a Christian person who knows the religion and everything else, and he loves the people and everything else. And you see, it is very funny that those who actually betray the people are people who are being rewarded in this government. Look at the government across Africa who are being appointed as ministers. The same thieves, the same looters, the real people are still suffering up to date. So it's like the same loyalists of the puppets are still controlling Africa up to date. And this is so sad.
But on top of that, I would also add knowledge, you know, Brother Fijin. I think if you don't know how the structure and the system are set up, then and you're just used to seeing politicians come around every 4 or 5 years giving out money, and you're just struggling to feed the family, you're not going to stop to connect the dots or read why things are the way they are. So I think there's knowledge, as people know they're struggling, but they may not really understand how the system is stacked up against them, and then these politicians will come and they will confuse them, and then they'll say, oh, don't worry, we'll, you know, give you a bit of money, and then everything, you know. So knowledge is also, I think, important.
It's true. It's true. I do agree with that. Anybody who feel like they can jump in to add anything? We are having around 8 minutes to go. Anybody who has anything to add on top of this? The reason why we are studying this book is for us to really understand the situation and the struggle we face in the liberation. This book is meant on the betrayal of liberation, the struggle that were made for liberation, and how that turned out to be fake up to date, and what do we need to do actually to really and truly liberate ourselves. Sister Wangari.
Yeah, I would only like to add that this is a new reflection of what is happening and has been happening in Kenya. Just that.
I know you've been cautious a bit with your words, but it's true that actually even the current president of Kenya is becoming more religious, and he wants to use the religious angle actually to claim that he fights for truth and justice. And you know very well that there has never been justice in this country. The people operating in his government are purely the corrupt people, the people who have bad reputations, that the people are being appointed in the government. The true freedom fighters are left outside there. The loyalists, like one of them, Gitu Kahengere, the deputy president of this country, is of course confirmed to be the son of a loyalist. That the people are running around and benefiting at the expense of the true liberators. And the true liberators do not have any property. They don't have any land. The president and the family and the loyalists are the people running the land in this country, that the policy makers, they brag of the good education. So I think, as you're saying, yes, it's true. What's going on today is actually replicated here.
But something is cooking behind very soon. The truth of the matter will be known.
So you are overcoming the fear. That's the best way forward, because it's the fear.
You can
that
see how our youth are now coming together.
Right. So they are uniting. The youth are uniting.
Yes, and that is what they are coming to fight for very soon.
I think it's through the conversation, as it was in Matigari. You see, when people started speaking of Matigari story and Matigari story, the people started coming together because they were now looking for this person. And I think now that you've also been speaking of this Mau and the liberation struggle, now the people get concerned and start coming together. And I like what you've been doing, Sister Wangari, of trying to unite the descendants, the sons and the daughters of Mamau. And these people are now coming together, because with that unity, they can be able to overcome the fear. And that is the best struggle. You see, when Matigari was being taken out, the people were shouting and they were actually mad at them. And you will see in the last page, where in the last part, when Matigari now was coming back to take over his property, people were already there to look at it. But the problem is that people were out there to look at it, not to help him. But when he set out fire in the house of the white man, his house, because he ended up now setting fire in his house, then actually all the people decided to help him set fire in all the collaborators' houses. So it's this problem when we start lighting actually the light of freedom, people will come in and jump in. And I think that's what you're talking about, Sister Wangari, that we are almost there.
We are almost there because, like me, I have gone under the carpet, I can say, or behind the scenes, because even preachers do not understand me these days. They invite me, like now I was supposed to have attended a conference which is being read by the TB Joshua's as the guest, the wife as the guest, but I didn't go. I was already invited by some bishops because I just want to be behind, because I know what and they're not understanding where the country is heading to. And as I have been saying and telling our forum, until Kenya gets its total restoration, the secrets of Africa, which was hidden in Kenya, and the sacrifice done on the same. And we will reverse places for the reverence of Africa.
Thank you for that. And may our ancestors keep you safe in this struggle. Now we're having 3 minutes to end. Is there anybody who is having anything to say in the next 3 minutes before we come to an end? We'll be doing the last part. Sometimes we will inform you, sometimes later. But any parting shot? Sister Shola, Sister Ida, Brother the King Mauli. Any last word you have? Brother Kwame has sent his apologies. He was in a meeting and he's on his way back home. So he hasn't even reached home. So that's why he's not been able to join us. But those who are here, anybody with the last word in the next 2 minutes before?
Hello. So me or that my phone is kind of acting up, so I'm still going through. Hello.
Yes, Mauli.
Yeah. So yes, I said my phone is kind of acting up, so I am going through small. So I'll pass.
Okay. Sister Mara, as we end up.
I was just going to say that even given our history, which we all know, which we're trying to overcome. I think one of the good things that came out of it is that we can all speak one language, which allows us everyone from people from Kenya, Ghana, South Africa to communicate. So, you know, even though it wasn't a good thing, but there's still some silver linings that we can use for the next springboard for the next step.
Okay, thanks, Samara. So I want to thank all of you who have attended the class today, and I'd like to say that indeed 3 or 4 things must be clear to us. One is that we have been betrayed as a people, and we have been betrayed by our own people who look like the white men, who has actually no difference with the white men. And they're the people who wipe at us as the way actually that young John boy wiped, actually cane and thoroughly cane Matigari when he went back for his property. We the people, when you go back to demand what is right for us, the food, everything else, as we go in the streets, it's the government that shoot us every day. When we demand for anything else, it's the government that send the police officers to arrest us and put us in jails and in prison. As we saw previously, many were in prison who are not actually having petty crimes for laundering around, for drinking, for trying to steal. And this is what our prisoners are full of. So we are actually still in the bondage and the suffering, and we must be aware of that. The religion, we must also be aware that has failed us for some time. It actually failed to help the father of Gushera, and actually we must be awakened enough that it may not help us now if we continue to insist on it so much. And until we break the yoke like Gushera broke the yoke, we might end up being still enslaved and controlled with it, and it may not help us at all. We must also be able to understand that the government is not on our side. The government is actually supporting those who have the money, who can donate to the government, despite of what the sufferings they put on us. The government will always appreciate them and rule in their favor. And therefore, all along, we must also identify that we have the freedom fighters within ourselves even today who are trying to speak the truth for the continent. And we are actually ignoring them as people are ignoring Matigari, as we keep on only speaking of their stories but are not ready to work with them. We have Pan-Africans who have stood up today, who are fighting for these struggles. Sister Wangar is here fighting. I'm trying to fight. There are so many of us who are here fighting, but people are not concerned to support and help us to come out. And lastly, we must know that it is still the fear that controls us. And until we as a people overcome our fears, we might not actually get the truth and the justice that we seek as a continent and as a people. And without truth and justice, there might not be genuine unity amongst us. And therefore, it's incumbent of all of us to ensure that we seek these ingredients. We seek the justice and we seek the truth for our people and for ourselves. And that the government may not provide it for us. It is within ourselves, and we must be courageous enough to exploit. That will be the parting shot for today. And I'll say thank you all. See you again on Thursday in our Thursday class.
Thank you.